So, have you ever just stopped in the middle of your day, looked around, and wondered, wait, am I actually in control of my choices? Or, I don't know, are you just kind of going with the flow, reacting to whatever happens, and maybe feeling a little bit stuck? We all like to think we're making these highly independent decisions, but honestly, a lot of us are just operating on autopilot. And because of that, we are completely missing these hidden opportunities that are literally right in front of us.
Well, welcome to today's Explainer. We are going to unlock the mechanics behind a truly fascinating concept, and that is agency. We'll be using an absolutely brilliant conversation between data analyst Nate Silver and author Cate Hall as our source material today. They sat down to discuss her book, You Can Just Do Things, and we're going to use their insights to unpack what agency really means, why some people just seem to have so much of it, and, best of all, how you can actually train yourself to get more of it.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover what agency actually is, then look at the extreme ends of the agency spectrum. After that, we'll dive into the hidden obstacles holding you back, concrete steps to build your agency, and finally, the future of human friction. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. What exactly is agency? Defining a Silicon Valley buzzword. Now, the word agency gets thrown around a lot, right? Especially in Silicon Valley. It can sound like this intimidating academic buzzword, but at its core, it's absolutely crucial. It is the fundamental key to taking back control of your life. So, how do our experts actually define it? Well, Nate Silver approaches this with a very analytical, data-driven mindset. To him, agency is all about being empowered to make robust, well-informed decisions. It means knowing exactly what is inside your control. And this is key. It's not just about having options. It's about having good, transparent options where the costs and benefits are really clear and where you aren't risking getting trapped in some sort of addictive spiral. It's a very logical, almost protective way of navigating the world. But let's contrast that with Cate Hall's definition. What's so interesting about her perspective is just how dynamic it is. Hall defines agency as the capacity to both see and act on all of the degrees of freedom that life really offers. Notice those two parts. It's not just having the observational skills to notice hidden choices, but having the actual courage to act on them. And you know what the most important word in her definition is? Learnable. Agency isn't just something you're born with, it's a skill. You can completely develop it. Which brings us to Section 2, the extremes of agency. Poker versus addiction. To really wrap our heads around this abstract concept, we need to look at it in practice. And Cate Hall's own life is just the perfect case study. She literally went from being a Supreme Court track lawyer in DC, quit that incredibly stable job, to become the #1 ranked female poker player in the world, then fell deep into drug addiction and finally pulled herself back out. In the hyper-competitive, high-agency environment of professional tournament poker, the failure rate is a staggering 88%. Even if you are an incredibly good player entering hundreds of tournaments a year, you're still going to fail the vast majority of the time. To survive there, you have to develop a massive tolerance for failure and really learn to think in probabilities. Every single hand gives you rapid, noisy feedback, forcing you to constantly recalculate your options. It's an environment that demands ultimate agency. And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast between high and low agency. On one side, you've got this poker mindset, right? Seeing multiple degrees of freedom, embracing constant failure, and adapting on the fly. But on the absolute opposite side, you have addiction. Hull describes addiction as the utter opposite of agency. It just strips away all your choices. Instead of seeing degrees of freedom, your world shrinks down to mashing one single button over and over and over again. You completely lose the capacity to choose anything else. Moving on to Section 3, overcoming your hidden obstacles. What holds you back? So if agency is a learnable skill, what's actually stopping us in our everyday lives? Look, most of us aren't dealing with the extremes of pro poker or severe addiction, sure, but we all have these hidden mental blocks and daily habits that quietly rob us of our agency. One massive obstacle is just how we handle conflict. Look at this great observation from Hall. She says we need to focus on, instead of having a feeling internally, just sharing it in a lot more circumstances. She argues that humans basically run on what she calls movie logic. You know, in movies, characters withhold crucial information just to build dramatic tension. Think about the movie La La Land. That massive relationship-ending blow-up could have been completely avoided if they just sat down and had one simple, honest conversation about their schedules. And the crazy thing is, we literally do this in real life. We silently build resentment instead of just bringing those subterranean dynamics to the surface. Another huge roadblock is the trap of limiting identities. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "Oh, I'm just an introvert," or "I'm just not a very charismatic person"?
By adopting these fixed labels, you are literally shutting down your own agency. Hall points out that things like charisma or confidence, they aren't these immutable genetic traits. They're really just collections of learnable subbehaviors. Things like how you physically stand when you interact with someone, or the specific topics you choose to talk about. When you break your so-called identity down into actionable behaviors, you realize you have total freedom to change them.
And this ties directly into how we view ourselves. Often, we get stuck assuming we have this unitary self, meaning a single entity with one consistent set of desires. In economics, this is tied to revealed preference, which is the idea that your actions perfectly reveal what you truly want. But Hall pushes back hard on this. She suggests we actually function way more like a parliament of sub-personalities. Different parts of yourself have totally competing desires at different times. Acknowledging this internal negotiation is a game changer. It stops you from beating yourself up when you act against your own long-term interests and really helps you navigate your choices much more effectively. Let's get into Section 4, How to Build Your Agency. Insight to Action.
So how do we actually take these insights and turn them into action? What are the practical step-by-step tools you can use starting today to expand your own degrees of freedom? Hall breaks this down into incredibly concrete advice. Step 1, drop the movie logic. Just stop creating unnecessary drama. Step 2, practice hyper-honest communication and do it early. If a work relationship or a friendship feels even slightly off, don't avoid the conflict. Bring it up immediately. Resolving a tiny little bump today prevents a massive, unresolvable resentment years down the line. And then there's step 3.
This is Hall's #1 most radical piece of advice. Set up an anonymous feedback box. Literally create a public link, tell everyone you know to use it, and brace yourself. I know, most people are absolutely terrified of this because they expect, internet cruelty. But Hall actually found that the vast majority of the feedback is highly constructive. It cures your blind spots. You get incredibly accurate information from the world about things you would never, ever notice on your own. I mean, she even updated her management style and her personal wardrobe based on anonymous feedback. It is such a powerful tool to force yourself to grow.
Now, we do have to look at the full picture here. As a really insightful comment on our source material pointed out, we have to be super cautious of survivorship bias. Both Hall and Silver left very stable career tracks, took massive risks, and ended up highly successful. But betting on yourself and leaving stability behind carries very real risk. The people who take those giant leaps and fail, they don't usually get to write best-selling books about it. So while these tools are fantastic for building agency, applying them in the real world means you really have to recognize the genuine risks involved.
Finally, Section 5, the future of human friction, AI, algorithms, and utopias.
We need to ask, how is the modern technological world altering our relationship with choice? Because right now, our agency is being challenged on a massive societal scale by AI and algorithms. Nate Silver points out a pretty disturbing parallel here. He notes that social media algorithms and AI operate essentially like digital casinos. They literally use the exact same manipulative techniques to establish powerful defaults that are incredibly hard to escape from. They mine your data to figure out exactly which buttons to push to maximize your engagement, and by doing that, they silently and efficiently strip away your choices, trapping you in these low-agency feedback loops without you even realizing it.
And this brings us to what we can playfully call the Taco Bell problem. Silver jokes that if there were a Taco Bell right inside his apartment, completely frictionless, he would gain 30 pounds overnight, right? It's the physical barrier, the actual friction of having to put on shoes and go outside that prevents bad habits. Technologies that are designed to eliminate all friction from our lives in the name of a utopian experience might actually destroy human flourishing. Having zero friction means you never have to overcome barriers. But overcoming barriers is exactly what gives human life its meaning and deepens our agency.
So the crucial takeaway here is that a perfectly smooth, frictionless life might actually be the enemy of a meaningful one. Which leaves us with a provocative thought to end on today. Look at your own daily routines. Look at your digital habits and your relationships. Where do you actually need to introduce more friction in your life in order to regain your agency? Think about it and go take back your control.